I am Antoine COLSON. With 20 years of experience in fund management, I founded PEQ to provide a tailored digital service that matches the ambition of private equity professionals. Join me for one-to-one conversation with key players in our industry: GPs, LPs, regulators, service providers, and partners. Each guest shares their expertise, journey, and vision of private equity. At Private Equity Vox, everyone is welcomed as long as they contribute to broadening our perspective on PE. Welcome to Private Equity Vox podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of hosting Antoine COLSON, a key player in the private market and head of IPEM, our industry's flagship event with established and growing success. Following the success of IPEM Paris in last September, you launched IPEM China in November, with many more projects to come. And you are now in the starting blocks of IPEM Wealth in Cannes from January 28th until 30th next year. We'll discuss IPEM strategy across its ongoing development and its perspective. Antoine, be welcome to Private Equity Vox.
Thank you, Antoine.
Antoine, can we just begin by discussing IPEM strategy and its perspective from 2025 and onwards?
Yeah, sure. Well, looking back at 24, I think we had a fantastic year. The year was perhaps challenging for private markets, private capital, investors. Many people, investors challenging their assumptions and the way they looked at the market. Liquidity was scarce. It was hard to strike deals, to exit. And to raise capital. And that's also perhaps why IPEM has had such an interesting year of growth. Across our different events, we had more than 10,000 delegates. The Paris event, which we moved from the Tuileries Gardens to the Palais des Congrès, was, I think, quite a success with about 6,000 delegates.
Yeah, it's been the case, yes.
So I think it was a very interesting year. And looking forward at the year to come, I see a couple of trends that we want to support and back so that private markets and private capital continue to grow. One is what we'll tackle, I think, a bit later afterwards, is what I call the wealth revolution. The fact that private capital is now opening to a new set of investors, mass affluent retail investors with new products, and that's a complete cultural change for the industry. And so that's something we'll be covering in Cannes, which I see now as the flagship event in the IPEM series, but probably in private capital to accommodate that new revolution. And so we are expecting 3,500 delegates in a couple of days now in Cannes. We'll be back as well in Paris in September, which is now our largest event, perhaps one of the largest, if not the largest globally. And the idea is to continue delivering something that's valuable to investors around the globe, LPs and GPs to connect in an efficient manner. And here in Paris, we'll be launching also the IPEM LP Congress, an international gathering for LPs only, so that LPs can compare notes and enjoy also some fruitful peer learning.
So it would be a separate event while today...
We had LP-only sessions last September already. It's like on the pre-opening day, and we're just expanding and having more ambition around that gathering because LPs, they really enjoy and value this community of peers where they can compare notes and discuss what's going on in the market without the interference of GPs around. So that's something we'll be complementing and growing in September. And you rightly mentioned the China event we had in November, which was the second, actually. We already had it last year. It was as well a good success. There's so much happening in China and so much being said that it's good to see that some European investors have joined us to touch base with the local private capital market, especially with local LPs, for some being active internationally. We'll be as well back in the US. We have a great partnership with a local publication called Pension and Investment. And so in April, we'll be back in Chicago, where our IPEM and P&I event is expected to double from last year. We had 200 delegates. We're targeting 400 of them next April. And it's a very pure format because there's a pure 1-to-1 LP-GP ratio that makes connections very effective. And I'm working on different other ventures. There should be something happening early 25, Q1 25 in the Middle East as well, and probably in other parts of the world where we know fundraising is active and there are some connections to build for our community.
And what are the main concern that you can see in those different parts of the world? Is it something that is very coherent with what you perceive in France, and or is it totally different? I mean, coming back from China, did you hear different concerns in relation with private markets?
Well, China is a completely different world, as everyone knows. Plus, the IPEM China event took place the exact day when Donald Trump was re-elected or elected again. So you can imagine the discussions it triggered back there. I think it's a place where there's a lot happening, especially in the private wealth segment. Lots of Chinese people, are hardworking people and save their money and want to invest wisely. So there's a very deep wealth management industry, but with strict currency controls that make fundraising difficult for international private equity firms. But I'll tell you an interesting story. Back in March last year, I was in Beijing visiting CIC, the local sovereign wealth fund. And in the lobby of the building, I met the two co-CEOs of KKR downstairs. So meaning, when you look at things seriously, there's much to make and to do in China, but you have to travel there and to build the right connection. So that's what IPEM China is all about.
So you're playing the field of the eye of IPEM, really international.
Yeah, I think, don't forget that last year, I think 60 to 70% of capital was raised by North American fund managers. And while Europe is an interesting and mature market, I think there's so much happening in other parts of the world, obviously in North America. That's why I was so eager to develop something there and happy to have found the right format and partner. And I think Asia, China being separate probably, but Asia is a very interesting market, especially on the wealth side of things. And don't forget, there was a strong delegation back last September from Latin America. And if you ask any large global GP investor relation people where they've been in the last few months, most will mention Latin America and Mexico in particular. So I may look at something in that area as well as the Middle East, where lots of money is being deployed right now.
Fantastic. You've mentioned wealth many times since the beginning of this interview. I'd like to open the question of why creating IPEM Wealth the specific subject for Cannes next January, knowing that the growing parts of private equity mostly relies on those new distribution channels. And can you mention us why you've decided to go down this path?
Sure. I think when we started IPEM back in 2016, private capital AUM was probably 5 trillion. Or a bit less. Right now, depending on the figures you look at, it's probably something between 13 and 15. And most of that growth was led by the typical private equity, private capital investor, which at the time were sophisticated institutional investors.
And the projection would be in 2028 something that would be close to 25 trillion.
Yeah, 25 to 30, depending on projections. But what's for sure, and that's why the wealth channels and what's happening there is so key. about 60% of the next 5 years AUM growth, so it's massive, will come from individual investors, including family offices. And so here there's something brewing that I call a revolution, because it's a complete change of paradigm for private capital. First, you're not talking anymore to single LPs one after another. You're talking to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of potential LPs that are individuals, that don't know about the asset class, that are probably not sophisticated enough to deal with the J-curve and illiquidity. And most GPs as well don't have the culture, the DNA, the tools, the teams to really address the full potential of this wealth revolution. And here we felt there was something so important happening, so key for the future of the industry, that it not only needed, I think, a gathering and business connections and connecting, letting people make deals as we do at IPEM and as we've done since the beginning, but we also needed an event that could host this revolution, that would help people learn what's happening in the market, what's working, what's not, and what's important, what challenges and opportunities there are going forward. So that's what we are doing in January, starting next January. I'll be also honest to say that it's something we've seen growing and growing probably since 2019 or so, and it's very well accelerating right now, and that's very fascinating. So I'm super excited by this new project.
And it has an impact on the whole value chain. So distribution would be impacted. The audience and the way to target and address this audience is definitely different. But also the product structuration is clearly being impacted.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I mentioned a complete change of paradigm, because an industry that was used to deal with sophisticated investors, to raise vintage fund, closed-ended vehicles, is now moving into something very different, raising from thousands of millions of individual investors. You need some distribution. And to be fair, the wealth revolution is happening, I would say, first in the ultra-high net worth individual segment, for which some have been active for a while, so single family offices or through private banks. And you will see at the Cannes event, we will have probably 150 to 200 single family offices, and the largest private banks in Europe and in the world will be part of the event. And you would be surprised, but some of these banks, I won't mention the names, but I have the figures, are among the top 5 LPs in the world. So they're already investing massively in private capital, and that's a big change. And then if you then continue exploring the potential of private wealth, it's not only single family offices, private banks, but it's also wealth management that can raise billions from wealthy, mass affluent individuals. And here the potential is probably even larger, more important, but still in its beginning. And so that's what I think IPEM Wealth is destined to cover and to explore further in the future. And so we'll start in January. And you rightly mentioned these individual investors. They are not sophisticated as the sovereign wealth funds of Abu Dhabi or the pension funds of in the US, and so they need education, and sometimes they even need different products because they need to deal with illiquidity, and so there's a craze around evergreen funds, semi-liquid vehicles. There's not a single day without noticing or witnessing the launch of one of these vehicles, and so this is also something very interesting, fascinating, because everyone is looking for the right recipe to not only raise capital from individuals, but also to deliver returns with the right, risk, return, and liquidity set. So it's an interesting trend right now.
And the structuration of those products also could create a real distinction between where the money is being invested, but also and the way it's been distributed in terms of subscription and those questions of liquidity, and the whole ecosystem has been impacted by that. And do you see that there could be a total split between those individuals and the traditional institutional player, or the ability to gather all those within different products but invested in the same final companies?
I think it's at this stage probably risky to embrace predictions, but for sure these evergreen funds. I mean, evergreen funds is a set of different things. It's first funds investing for eternity, investing money, recycling money. These are funds also that you can subscribe to anytime or almost anytime. And these are, for most of them, funds that you can exit with some liquidity scheme or mechanism about any time or at certain periods. And so this set is completely new to private capital, and it's breaking all the rules that have been around for so many years. There's been some discussions, and I'm sure we'll talk about this IPEM Wealth Awards we are launching. But I remember a couple of discussions we had with the judges, with the jury, about the fact that these evergreen funds that are so new and so disruptive may become attractive to institutional investors that were backing the past paradigm. And actually, it's already the case. Especially smaller institutional investors may feel appealed by the liquidity option, the period of subscription that's more open, and the very long-term horizon they can have with these evergreen funds. So it's definitely something to monitor, is whether these boundaries we're imagining between closed-ended, typical institutional products and evergreen retail products, will this boundary stay as it is, or will these evergreen funds become as well attractive to institutional investors? And I think the real question is about the return profile, and whether also market practices are good enough, especially in terms of valuation and liquidity, to be interesting for institutional investors. But that may happen.
We may also mention that the question that it triggers in relation with how a GP team would be aligned in terms of value creation, because the typical scheme of carried interest will be definitely impacted by evergreen structuration.
Fees overall, carried for sure, but I think the fee structure is also evolving because of distribution, because also of this new product being designed. And I think there will be, it's my prediction, so, but I think the two worlds will continue to live together. Especially closed-ended funds are very well suited for mid-market fund managers, that are specialists, that are very much focused on their value creation playbook. I mean, private equity, as you've known it since the beginning. I think these evergreen funds are probably great vehicles to build, the ETFs of private capital, like these massive vehicles, so that you can build some exposure to private capital. And I think it's a very important and significant move for individual investors, because there was a book back, I think in the 50s, the Affluent Society in the US. If you look back at the post-war world, I think most of the wealth was shared in a very democratic way, especially in the US, thanks to stock markets. And everyone in the US in particular could enjoy, the great successes of Coca-Cola, American Express, or IBM. Lately, many great successes have been made in private markets and have not even made them way to IPO. And I think giving access to retail investors to where the value is created, to where our economy is growing and delivering, its promises, is something significant, I think, for society. And so I think it's an interesting moment for more broadly to give access, to democratize private capital and to give access to great set of opportunities for individual investors if made right. And so that's the question. What does it mean making this democratization right?
The reference to ETF is something that is really strong, especially understanding the strategy of BlackRock, coming from magnificent success in ETF, switching or expanding towards private equity is a really great signal of there's a willingness of people who wanted to invest in an economy that is not accessible to them at the moment in private equity, and the evolution of what you're positioning from IPEM Wealth is definitely the right signal for that.
Yeah, and I think it's happening.
Fantastic. Can we discuss a bit around the Wealth Awards that you've mentioned earlier?
First, I'm very excited and happy to have these IPEM Wealth Awards taking place in Cannes. I mean, it's been such a long time. We launched IPEM in Cannes back in 2016, and I've been looking for launching and having an award ceremony and having fun on the red carpet since the beginning. So it's
and we'll be there on your side covering this event.
Yeah, thanks for being there, and I think it's an event that we imagine in a very short time. And I'm fascinated by the number of applications and excitement that's been growing around it. So I want to thank everyone who joined the competition and also congratulate the IPEM team that did so well to build this first edition of IPEM Wealth Awards. I mean, in a nutshell, what we want to do is to showcase this wealth revolution I was mentioning, is not only to celebrate winners, but also to let everyone active in private capital and looking at this wealth revolution or democratization of private capital, to look at what the others are doing. What are the successes around? What's been successful? What works and what doesn't work? And I would say the exercise we had with the judges to look at the many applications was really first very entertaining, fun, and very educational. We learned a lot because we really felt the energy and innovation happening in the market. And so that's what we want to celebrate, and that's what also we want the market to look at during this Wealth Awards ceremony and celebration in Cannes. And back at the category, perhaps you may want to tackle that.
because there's something that is really striking regarding category, because IPEM Wealth first edition, the quantity of categories really shows that there's, if not maturity, there is something going on with enough nominee to be able to sustain this quantity of various awards. And it's something that is, I would not say surprising, but it clearly shows that not only it's the beginning of it, it's the new maturity phase of this wealth environment applied to private equity.
Yeah, I hope that once again we'll get the timing right, but I think we could have launched this IPEM Wealth Award probably a couple of years ago, because we mentioned these evergreen products. Some have been around and successful for quite some time. But actually, it's accelerating right now in Europe. I think the IPEM Wealth Awards, just to clarify also, takes a strong European approach. And these wealth channels, these distribution channels, private banks, wealth managers, they are very local. If you look at the Italian market, which is a very attractive and interesting one, its structures are very different from the French one, from the Swiss one, or from the Nordics. And so that's why we took this European approach also to let players compare notes. But obviously Europe is lagging clearly behind the US and even Asia to some extent, where the wealth revolution, as I call it, is much more mature and advanced. And so for this IPEM Wealth Award, what we wanted to celebrate was first fund managers that did well across their strategy, across their product distribution, and that also are clearly revolutionaries, that are pioneers in this big breakthrough that I see for private capital.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also celebrate products, because it takes not only fund managers but some good products, and so we'll
adapt product
exactly having the right the product market fit, and so and here again many high quality applications supported by quite fascinating figures of fundraising that really back the fact that this wealth potential is massive.
It's a real lesson for the industry. I mean that money was there available to be allocated to private equity due to distribution unavailability and products that were before not adapted for those people who wanted to invest. Clearly, when there's a good alignment, money flows.
Exactly. Just look. These are public figures, but look at the amounts raised by firms like Apollo, Blackstone, KKR, Harris, from individual investors in these evergreen vehicles, and you'll notice that it's where the growth is happening, and it's now representing a large share of their AUM, and so that's massive, and so that's something we'll be celebrating in Cannes on the red carpet. We'll also celebrate distribution, because again, whereas institutional fundraising takes takes a good investor relation, a good fund manager, a good investor relation person, and a handshake with the right institutional LP. Raising capital in wealth channels takes very good and strong partnerships and distribution. And so we'll celebrate the private bank that did best and most in Europe last year, and we'll celebrate as well wealth managers that do well in the mass affluent segment. And there's even a category that that I think is particularly interesting and relevant, which is wealth partnership of the year. Where
can you explain us a little bit more?
Well, the idea again is you cannot succeed on your own in wealth channels. It takes a fund manager and one or a couple of good distribution partners. Mm-hmm. And so this Wealth Partnership Award will celebrate together a fund manager and a distributor. Mm-hmm. So a GP and a private bank, for example. And here again, we've had very interesting stories and very attractive, I would say, case studies for the rest of the industry to look at, because again, it takes good partnerships to succeed in this space.
And to unlock the
potential of
potential there. Yeah. Anything else to mention in regards with those awards? When will we have more information regarding the shortlist, and what is the schedule? Because until we'll meet in Cannes, so from the 28th of January until the 30th, what will be the schedule of that?
So the jury, the judges met back mid-December before the holiday season, and shortlisted among the very high quality submission we had 3 to 4 nominees per finalist per category, and then starting next week, so January 6th, these shortlisted firms and products will be open for public vote. So anyone obviously qualified, to vote, can look at our website, log in and vote for the product, fund manager, private bank, wealth manager of their choice. And this can really move the needle. Public vote is about 20% of the ultimate rating. So I know, considering what we did with the judges, that this can really move the needle. So I encourage anyone listening to us to log in at ipemmarket.com and vote.
To take active part on those awards.
Exactly. And then there will be a ceremony at the Palais des Festivals, because that's where awards take place, right?
Yes, we deserve that.
Exactly. And then in the evening, we'll have also some great celebration. We'll privatize a beach in Cannes to also have fun with the winners and everyone that joined the competition.
We very much look forward to that, Antoine. And what could we wish you for 2025? Because you have so many projects, and IPEM is vibrant. A new anniversary coming also. So it's tremendous what you're up to.
Thank you, Antoine. I think we should wish private capital some good, and I think I feel IPEM has become an important rendezvous for our industry, and I hope also we can have our own impact and input on where this industry is going, because it's I wouldn't say it's in crisis or in trouble, but it's entering its teenage years probably.
So which can be troubled.
Which are
troubled years.
Exactly, which are questioning, challenging, and I think it's important that at IPEM not only good business happens, fundraising happens, but also the future of our industry shapes the right way, because I see amazing potential for the future of our industry, and I'd like IPEM to be part and support it in the future as well. So let's try.
We wish you all that and even more. Thank you very much, Antoine, and let's meet in Cannes in a few days now.
Thank you. See you in Cannes.
Thank you for listening to Private Equity Vox. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with your network, subscribe, and leave us a kind review. I am Antoine Sage, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Private Equity Vox for another one-to-one with key player in the private equity industry.